It is that time of the week again, and Xbox have now decided to pull the trigger and give us an excellent Xbox Store sale. This one runs over the next 7 days, and there are some fantastic games here, including the likes of Black Myth WuKong, Evil West, and even a surprise which rarely goes on sale, so stay tuned later on for that. As always though, if you want a chance to win a free Xbox game, all you have to do is just comment below and let me know your favourite game on sale for this week. Congratulations to last week's winner, just hit me up on our awesome Discord server with the link below and I'll get that game right over to you. With that, let's just dive into the huge sales Xbox has provided us for this week. I might as well start off today with a pretty large game, and that is none other than Black Myth WuKong. This one actually landed on the Xbox as of August last year, but I know many of you kind of held out for a sale before picking it up, since it's actually been out everywhere on other platforms for at least a year now. Well, in some great news, the devs have now given us a discounted price, bringing it down to just £41.24, and looking across all platforms, this is the best price yet. If you're unfamiliar with this game, it's an action RPG that's set in the realms of Chinese mythology. Visually, the game is just utterly insane. The environments, character designs, and boss animations all look top tier, and you can tell that a lot of care went into the world. Combat-wise, it does take inspiration from Souls-likes, but it's certainly not like them in terms of the difficulty scale. Instead, it's more akin to a usual action title, but more sort of on that sort of medium to hard mode. It's also really highly praised still, and I do recommend you grab it as soon as you can, as I doubt we're going to have another sale anytime soon. Right now, and going for 18 quid thanks to a 65% discount, you can get hooked on Atomic Heart. You can then enjoy the bizarre retro-futuristic setting and unapologetically weird tone, which I absolutely loved. It's essentially like Bioshock and Prey if they had a Russian love child. Yes, it's as weird as it sounds. The world design is absolutely gorgeous, as you can probably see on screen now, and it's got loads of robotic cities and twisted tech horror creatures. What's great is the combat, to be honest, and it's no slouch as well, as it blends gunplay powers and melee with some satisfying fluidity. Some of the movements are totally unhinged as well in the best way possible, even though the voice acting is a little bit mid. This is a visually stunning single player shooter with a pretty lengthy campaign that's more than fair for that price tag that it's now asking for. So if you're craving something that's fully different, I do recommend Atomic Heart, but please don't go in expecting a groundbreaking story. One of my favourite surprises in the RPG space over the past few years has to be Greedfall, and it does such an excellent job of blending 17th century colonial fantasy with the kind of branching story and character depth you'd expect from something like a classic BioWare RPG. You basically take in the role of a diplomat exploring a mystical island, negotiating with factions, uncovering secrets, and making world-shaping decisions. Right now, it's down to another low price as it's just £4.50 thanks to an 85% discount. While it's certainly not without some rough edges here and there, there's a real charm and ambition to this one. I love how it lets you build your own relationships, you can shift different alliances, and then tackle quests in multiple different ways. If you missed the golden era of choice-driven RPGs, Greedfall is a great reminder of how good they can actually be, and it's also a very good stepping stone before Greedfall 2 arrives sometime this year. The first A Plague Tale game, known as Innocence, was something of a sleeper hit, and Asobo Studios made the smart decision with A Plague Tale Requiem, and that was to double down on what made the original just so special. The scope may feel larger in terms of its visuals and gameplay systems, especially with its expanded rat controlling mechanics and more diverse environments. At its core though, it has the same powerful bond between young Hugo and his fiercely protective sister known as Amicia, whose emotional arc continues to drive that narrative forward. Visually, Requiem is utterly breathtaking, and I still consider it probably one of the best looking games on the Xbox Series generation so far, and it really showcases some richly detailed medieval towns, the sun-drenched countrysides, and eerie plague-ravaged landscapes. It's a testament to Asobo's technical and artistic ambition, and at 65% off of this week is totally worth every single penny. Evil West is up next, and this one is just pure old school action game fun and knows exactly what it wants to be and then just fully commits to it. In this one, you play as a vampire hunter armed with guns, gadgets, and a brutally satisfying electric gauntlet. The combat for me in this one was the real star of the show, as it's really fast, aggressive, and just incredibly fun, especially when you're punching vampires into a bloody pulp. It just never gets old. The Wild West and supernatural setting is very stylish and unique, and it gives this game a sort of gritty atmosphere with cool enemy designs and boss fights that actually test your skill. The progression system is also pretty straightforward, but it is rewarding from time to time. It essentially lets you unlock new abilities and combos that do keep the combat fresh from start to finish. I will say to you that the story isn't groundbreaking by any means. It is certainly serviceable and fits the tone of the game pretty perfectly, and it kind of reminds me massively of the 360 era and the kind of linear single player games we got during that generation. For £12.50 is not really a lower price compared to some other games on this list, but it's still decent for the package you're getting here. I greatly enjoyed playing stuff like Civilization, and one day I just realised to myself that one of my favourite parts of that game was just stacking absolutely gargantuan adjacency bonuses for one of my districts. Islanders is basically that idea, but boiled down to its core, which I actually ended up liking quite a lot. If you enjoy seeing big numbers, puzzle games, or just want something relaxing to unwind with, then Islanders is just easy to recommend. I do kind of wish there was a little bit more to it though. As far as I know, the game is no longer being worked on, which is a bit unfortunate, but for the price it's offering, it's still a solid value here. I would have loved to see a little bit more variety in terms of its buildings, something like a wool or milk industry using sheep for example, and also a versus mode where two players take turns placing buildings on identical islands. Still is a very decent package for what you're getting here. It's now less than the price of a cup of coffee this week, and it's only £1.25. There's nothing quite else like Wild Bastards on this list today, and it is one that I've mentioned here on the channel on a couple of occasions now, and that's because it's so bloomin' excellent. If you're unfamiliar, it's a roguelike which is coming from the same team behind Void Bastards. It has you travelling from planet to planet to recruit, manage, and gunsling with a team of 13 outlaws, each of whom have their own weaponry, special powers, and even growth trees. On planets, you'll be wrangling loot and starting showdowns that are played out in intense bite-sized shootouts. It truly is a special blend of genres as well, which you really wouldn't think would work. The bits of lore, the unique characters, and comic book-like visuals, and most importantly, the tactical gameplay is surely going to have your mouth on the floor because it's just that weird and so well executed. It's a very unique one, and please don't go into this one expecting something like Doom, as it is totally different, and that's why it's just so mind-blowing to me. If you're instead keen for something that contains more aliens and then has you blasting them in a non-stop action area, then Aliens Fireteam Elite is now down by 80%, and it brings it to just £5, and this is the game's lowest price we've ever seen. This is a co-op third-person shooter that pits you and your friends against waves of xenomorphs across various missions. It also has a class system, tons of different weapons to upgrade, and loads of different enemy types for you to encounter, so no two missions ever really kind of feel the same. It's a thrilling ride to be honest, especially if you're playing with your friends and coordinating your strategies, and that's where I had the most fun within this entire game to be honest. The developers of this game really knew what they were doing, and it's quite clear to see as they put a lot of care and attention into this one. The game is incredibly fun to play, and even in 2026 there's still an active online community, and you don't actually have to wait that long to find a match. In my opinion, it's very polished, enjoyable, and just easy to get into, and that's why I easily recommend it in this video today. Isonzo has to be one of my favourite FPS games of this entire generation, and it just drops you into the rarely explored Italian front of World War I, and it does offer you a very grounded tactical multiplayer shooter that values your teamwork over twitch reflexes. That means that every match here is a gritty tug of war in the trenches, or just coordinating assaults across stunning alpine locations. That real focus though on authenticity is remarkable, and if you like games like Hell Let Loose or even Insurgency Sandstorm, then you'll feel absolutely at home with this one. Of course, the more coordination between your different squads means you'll win more matches, and I have to say Hell Let Loose is the closest experience to this one. While it's not as flashy as modern shooters, it captures the atmosphere of World War I better than most games do out there, and at just £5 that's a blimmin' bargain. Keeping within the same realm of tactical and more hardcore shooters, I'm of course going to highlight as well Insurgency Sandstorm, and it's now down to its lowest price we've ever seen before. Just like I mentioned with Isonzo, it's a very slow, tense, and brutally grounded experience where the sound cues will matter most than your reflexes, and one bad angle on a doorway can end a round instantly. Of course, it's not going to be in a World War I setting, and instead this one's based within the modern day. I kind of liken it to Battlefield, but if I had a baby with Counter-Strike, and it's a good stepping stone as well from arcade shooters to traditional mil sims. The PvP modes are quite expansive these days, and you do have a ton of stuff to dive right into right out of gate. I personally really enjoy the PvE mode the most, and that's because you're trying to complete objectives as an 8-man team, and it gets really intense at times, especially when you're all pinned down. At £10.50, this is a great pick, especially if you want a good start into that tactical FPS space. I won't lie to you, it's been a little while since I've played this one, and I expected it to be something a little bit disposable and something that I've just wasted my money on. However, I actually ended up being pleasantly surprised by it, even as not a horror aficionado. Fobia is a survival horror game, and it lives and dies on its atmosphere, and thankfully it does actually nail that part. You're going to be stuck inside a decaying hotel, and you'll be slowly uncovering what happened through exploration and puzzles, and it constantly feels like you shouldn't be there. Combat does exist at time to time, but it's clearly not the focus in the entire game, which actually kind of works in its favour. It's also very clunky in places for sure, but the tension kind of carries it, and that's why I really did love it. I love how it lets the dread build up naturally instead of relying on cheap jump scares. I'm not a fan of jump scares, they're probably probably the worst thing in my games, and I'm so glad that there really wasn't any in this experience. For just £2.50 is an incredibly easy game to get into, but just forgive those rough edges about it. If you enjoy slower, puzzle-driven horror games that prioritize mood over polish, this is definitely well worth a look at. Morbid, the Lords of Ire, is one that you may have never even heard of before, and to be honest, I haven't even heard of it before diving into this video. I just had to highlight it as I've seen the reviews for it are actually pretty decent, and it looks to be a very bleak game from the opening moments and then stays that way, throwing you into a hostile world, and it's telling you basically to survive in the best way possible. Unfortunately, it is indeed a Souls-like, so if you're not a fan of these games, you probably might want to skip this one. The few reviews that I have done a little bit of research on though have mentioned that combat here is very weighty and punishing, the stamina management and enemy patterns do most of the work as well, and it's quite a great experience. Just don't expect the likes of something like Elden Ring. I didn't even realise that this game is also a continuation of the prior title in this series, and the world here looks to be full of lore and is going to be really fun. It certainly sticks to being morbid, but it's interesting and actually leaves me wanting to actually play this one. At £5 is a solid pickup if you enjoy Souls-like style combat, dark worlds, and just games that don't soften the experience to appeal to everyone out there. Now at its lowest price ever at just £6.74, this next game is one that absolutely deserves a spot within your Xbox library. Young Souls is an action RPG beat-em-up style hybrid, and it blends fast-paced combat with a very heartfelt coming-of-age story. You will play as both rebellious twins Jen and Tristan, who uncover a portal to a mysterious underground world filled with goblins and danger. The game looks to combine intense, satisfying combat with RPG elements, and it allows you to sort of level up, customize your own gear, and unlock some cool new abilities. Outside the combat though, there is story-driven interactions and character development that give emotional weight to the overall adventure, and the stylized art and fluid animation make every battle feel dynamic, while the co-op gameplay enhances the overall experience. This is easily one of my favourite indie experiences out there, and if you do want to check out my full review when I first started this channel, then you can click that link in the description below. Just be warned, I probably don't sound anything like I do now. Necromunda Hired Gun is a very fast-paced, brutal FPS that's set in the dark grim underbelly of Warhammer 40k's hive city named Tertium. In this one, you play as a bounty hunter tearing through gang hideouts with cybernetic agilities, stuff like wall running, grappling, and then blasting your way through neon-lit corridors. It's a very messy and violent game and unapologetically over the top, but with your cybermassive companion joining the carnage as well by mauling enemies mid-fight, it's utterly insane. The gunplay feels satisfyingly crunchy with a sort of mix of classic shooter design with modern flair, and while it's certainly a little bit rough around the edges, it more than makes up for it with that style and speed. It's just £6.60 this week after an 80% discount, and it's an easy buy, especially if you love sort of Doom style action with a gritty Warhammer twist. It's certainly not the best rated game out there, and the story isn't that fantastic, but if you just want to go in for some run and gun hectic action, then totally put this in your basket. I mentioned towards the start of this video that I did actually have a surprise for you, and for me, I actually wanted to take this opportunity to mention an insane deal that's going at the moment for a Seagate storage expansion card. This is going to be UK only, so I apologise for everyone outside this region, but if you are based in the UK, game is of course going into administration unfortunately, but they are selling off these expansion cards for just £130. That is almost 50% off, and that's an insane deal, especially if you've been looking for a way to upgrade your Xbox storage. I will leave a link below if you are interested in checking it out, but let me know your thoughts as well. Whilst down there, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this sales video, make sure to comment as well for the Xbox game giveaway, and do subscribe for more Xbox videos on a daily basis. I want to give a massive shout out as well to our channel members for your continued support, and if you want stuff like videos early, exclusive emotes, sort of Discord chats, so much more, then click that join button down below for as little as $2.99. If you do want to check out some more amazing Xbox content here on the channel though, do check out the video on screen now as I cover the 10 things you need to know about Crimson Desert before it launches in the next 30 days.